The Louisiana night stretched out beneath a silvery moon, its light cascading over the sprawling estate that stood as a monument to wealth and prestige. Senator John Neely Kennedy's residence, with its towering windows and meticulously tended gardens, gleamed like a beacon in the darkness, its wrought-iron gates and ivy-draped walls hinting at the treasures locked within. For most passers-by, it was a distant symbol of luxury, a dream too grand to attain. But for the four shadowy figures huddled at the edge of the property, it was the ultimate prize. The Baton Rouge mansion promised riches beyond imagination, priceless artwork, rare antiques, and a rumored safe overflowing with cash and jewels. Michael, the crew's seasoned leader, crouched behind a line of neatly trimmed hedges, his piercing gaze fixed on the mansion's silhouette. A master of the heist, he had spent years honing his craft, orchestrating complex robberies with the precision of a strategist. His reputation for success had forged a loyal team, each member as shrewd and determined as he was. Tonight, they stood on the brink of the score that would secure their futures. Michael adjusted the collar of his dark jacket, the cool night air brushing against his face as he whispered, "This is it. Tonight's the night we change everything." His voice was steady, masking the rush of adrenaline that pulsed through his veins. He had invested weeks in studying the Kennedy mansion, poring over architectural plans, hacking into public records, and dissecting every facet of its security infrastructure. The plan was ironclad. Intelligence indicated that Kennedy was away on official business, leaving the estate ripe for the taking. Inside awaited a fortune, masterpieces worth millions, vintage jewelry that could fund a lifetime, and a vault said to hold untold wealth. Michael's team had left nothing to chance, mapping escape routes, pinpointing camera blind spots, and timing security patrols with meticulous detail. Confidence surged within him, though a faint unease lingered at the edge of his thoughts. Behind him, Lisa, the crew's agile and quick-witted thief, checked her gear with the deftness of a seasoned pro. Her gloved hands moved over her tool's lockpicks, a compact crowbar, and a silenced flashlight, ensuring everything was primed for action. Lisa was a phantom, capable of gliding through the tightest security undetected. Her sharp eyes caught every detail, and her ability to think on her feet had pulled the team out of danger more times than she could recall. She glanced toward the mansion, her mind already charting the best approach to the back entrance. "I'll take the rear," she said softly, her tone calm but resolute. "You guys hit the main entrance once I've cleared it." Michael gave her a nod, trusting her instincts without hesitation. Her resourcefulness had been a lifeline in past jobs, and he relied on it now. Ethan, the team's tech expert, knelt beside Lisa, his fingers dancing across a handheld device that cast a faint glow in the darkness. Young but prodigiously talented, Ethan possessed an almost intuitive understanding of electronics, making him the linchpin in disabling the mansion's sophisticated security system. Months ago, he had infiltrated the property under the guise of a maintenance worker, gathering critical data on its cameras, alarms, and pressure-sensitive floors. Now, as he worked, he muttered, "Give me a sec to crack the gate's security." His focus was laser-sharp, his mind a whirlwind of code and algorithms. The task was perilous. A single error could sound an alarm and doom their mission, but Ethan thrived in such challenges, his confidence growing with each successful maneuver. Brian, the group's muscle, stood at the rear, his towering frame casting a long shadow across the ground. With broad shoulders and hands that could break through steel, he carried a heavy duffel bag stocked with tools and ample space for the loot they intended to seize. Brian wasn't one for intricate planning. His role was to tackle physical obstacles and handle any unexpected threats. His massive hands gripped a crowbar, and a faint grin tugged at his lips as he said, "Just point me where to go, Michael. I'm ready to roll." His voice was rough, brimming with anticipation, but Michael raised a hand to steady him. "We go in fast, smooth and clean," Michael said, his tone commanding. "No risks, no slip-ups. We've got this under control." The crew moved as a cohesive unit, slipping through the shadows toward the mansion's rear entrance. The night was still the only sounds, the distant chirping of crickets and the soft crunch of gravel beneath their boots. Michael took the lead, his mind replaying the plan with surgical precision. The Kennedy estate was a fortress, but every fortress had its weaknesses. They had chosen the less guarded back gate as their entry point, banking on Ethan's skills to bypass its biometric lock. As they reached it, Ethan crouched low, his device humming softly as he worked. Almost there, he set his fingers moving with practiced ease. A soft beep sounded, followed by a click as the gate unlocked. "We're good," he announced, a satisfied smirk on his face. They slipped through the gate, moving stealthily between the tall hedges and stone walls that bordered the property. The mansion loomed larger with each step, its grandeur undeniable even in the dim light. Towering columns flanked the rear entrance, and marble steps gleamed under the soft glow of ambient lights. Lisa took point, her movements fluid as she scanned for motion sensors. "Stay low," she whispered, her eyes catching the faint red beams crisscrossing their path. "One misstep, and we're done." The crew followed her lead, crouching as they navigated the invisible security grid. Michael's heart raced, but his focus remained unyielding. This was their expertise, outsmarting systems, evading danger, and walking away with the prize. Inside, the mansion welcomed them with a rush of cool air, the scent of polished wood and leather, filling the expansive hallway. Dark oak paneling lined the walls, adorned with framed artwork that exuded wealth and history. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead, their dim light casting long shadows across the marble floor. The crew paused briefly, taking in the opulence, but there was no time to linger. Michael gestured for them to press on his eyes, sweeping for any sign of trouble. Lisa checked the next room, he ordered. "Ethan, keep working on the alarms. Brian, stay on guard." The team nodded, slipping into their roles with seamless coordination. Lisa moved ahead, her footsteps silent as she entered a grand living room. The space was a showcase of luxury marble floors, velvet upholstery, and glass cabinets displaying artifacts that could fund a small fortune. Her gaze darted around, spotting a motion sensor in the corner. "Clear for now," she whispered back, her voice steady. "But watch for the beams, they're all over." Ethan, still engrossed in his device, muttered, "I'm looping the cameras. Main alarms are down, but there's a secondary system to tackle." His fingers worked furiously, his brow creasing with concentration. Brian, bringing up the rear, shifted his bag, the clink of tools echoing softly. "Let's grab the goods and get out," he grumbled. "This place is giving me the creeps." Michael brushed off Brian's impatience, his mind fixed on the mission. The plan was to hit the safe first, believed to be hidden in a study upstairs. Rumors spoke of cash gold and rare documents enough to secure their futures. After that, they'd sweep the mansion for smaller valuables, jewelry, watches, anything portable. Michael knew the dangers, but the potential payoff dwarfed them. "Stay focused," he said quietly. "We're not here to admire the scenery." The crew advanced deeper, their footsteps muffled by the plush carpet. The hallway opened into a grand staircase, its polished banisters reflecting the soft light. Upstairs lay the real prize. But as they reached the staircase's base, a faint chime pierced the silence, a delicate, almost musical sound that echoed through the halls. The crew froze their bodies, tensing as they exchanged wary glances. "What was that?" Brian muttered, his grip tightening on the crowbar. Michael's eyes narrowed, a prickle of unease running down his spine. "Ethan, check the system," he said, his voice taut. Ethan's fingers paused, his face paling as he scanned his device. "That shouldn't have happened," he said, his tone hushed. "The alarms are supposed to be offline." He tapped rapidly, searching for the source, but the readings showed no anomalies, or so it seemed. Lisa, ever vigilant, scanned the room again, her eyes locking onto a faint flicker from a camera lens mounted high on the wall. "Michael," she said, her voice low and urgent, "we're being watched." The implication hung heavy in the air. Michael's jaw tightened, his mind racing. They had accounted for every variable, every potential snag. But this felt different, deliberate, orchestrated, as if the mansion were alive and responding to their presence. "Keep moving," he said, his tone resolute despite the doubt creeping in. "We stick to the plan." The crew pressed on their steps, cautious but determined. Lisa guided them through a labyrinth of hallways, dodging security beams with the grace of a cat. Ethan's device buzzed softly as he worked on the secondary alarms, his frustration mounting with each failed attempt. Brian followed, his heavy tread a stark contrast to the others' silence. The mansion's grandeur was imposing, its stillness broken only by the faint hum of unseen machinery. Michael couldn't shake the sensation that they were stepping into something larger than they'd planned, something controlled by a mind far more cunning than their own. As they neared the study where the safe was rumored to be, the chime rang out again, louder this time, reverberating through the corridors like a warning. The crew halted, their breaths shallow, their eyes darting to every shadow. "Ethan." Michael snapped, his patience thinning. "What's happening?" Ethan shook his head, his face pale. "I don't know, man. The system's resisting me. It's like someone's rewriting the code on the fly." His words sent a chill through the group. Michael's hand drifted to the gun at his hip, though he knew it wouldn't help against this unseen threat. The mansion was no longer just a target, it was a battlefield, and they were losing ground fast. Lisa's voice cut through the tension. "We need to pick up the pace," she said, her eyes sweeping the hallway. "Whatever's going on, time's not on our side." Michael nodded, his resolve hardening. They had come too far to retreat now. The safe was close, the treasures within reach. But as they moved toward the study, the faint hum grew louder, more insistent, vibrating through the walls like a living pulse. The mansion was awake, and it was watching them. Michael's mind raced, piecing together the clues, the chime, the flickering camera, the system's defiance. Someone was out there, pulling the strings, and they were always one step ahead. Unbeknownst to the crew, Senator John Neely Kennedy was far from the absent figure they'd assumed. From a hidden control room, he monitored their every move, his intellect and technological expertise transforming the mansion into a trap of his own making. Known for his sharp mind and unwavering commitment to safeguarding his home, Kennedy had anticipated such an intrusion. His security system, a marvel of engineering, was not merely a defense, but a strategic weapon designed to outwit even the most skilled thieves. As the crew ventured deeper, they were playing directly into his hands, each step drawing them closer to a confrontation they couldn't yet fathom. The night wore on the moon, casting long shadows through the mansion's windows. Michael led his team with unyielding focus, but the unease in his gut grew stronger. They were professionals, the best at what they did, but tonight they faced an adversary unlike any before. The chime sounded again, a final note of warning, and Michael's heart sank. The perfect plan, so carefully constructed, was beginning to fray, and the mansion was closing in around them. They were no longer the hunters they were. The hunted, and the game had only just begun. The interior of Senator John Neely Kennedy's residence grew more imposing as Michael and his crew ventured deeper, the cool air thickening with an unspoken tension. The grand hallway stretched ahead, its marble floors reflecting the dim glow of crystal chandeliers, while ornate artwork lined the walls, each piece a silent testament to the wealth they sought. The crew moved with calculated precision, their earlier confidence bolstered by the successful breach of the back gate. Michael led the way, his mind a whirlwind of strategy, replaying every step of their plan. The safe, rumored to be hidden in a study upstairs, was their primary target, but the mansion's labyrinthine layout demanded caution. Lisa glided ahead, her nimble form a shadow against the dark wood paneling, while Ethan hunched over his device, his fingers dancing across the screen as he worked to neutralize the secondary security systems. Brian trailed behind his heavy footsteps, a stark contrast, his crowbar ready for any physical challenge. Ethan's device emitted a soft buzz, breaking the silence as he muttered, "This is tougher than I thought." His brow furrowed, the glow of the screen illuminating his tense expression. The mansion's security system, though initially disabled, was proving resilient, with cameras flickering back online and alarms cycling through frequencies he couldn't predict. "The main alarms are down," he said, his voice low, "but there's a backup layer I need to crack. Give me a minute." Michael nodded, his eyes scanning the hallway for any sign of movement. He had anticipated challenges, but the system's adaptability suggested a design far more sophisticated than they'd prepared for. Unbeknownst to them, Senator Kennedy's handiwork was at play, his sharp intellect having crafted a network of defenses that evolved with each intrusion attempt. Lisa reached a junction where the hallway split, her sharp eyes catching the faint red glow of motion sensors embedded in the walls. "Hold up," she whispered, raising a hand to halt the group. She crouched low, tracing the beams with her flashlight, her mind calculating the safest path. "There's a grid here. We'll need to go single file and stay low." Her voice was calm, but the undercurrent of caution was unmistakable. The crew complied, moving one by one through the narrow corridor, their breaths shallow as they avoided the invisible triggers. Michael followed close behind, his trust in Lisa's instincts unwavering. Her ability to read a room had saved them before, and he relied on it now to navigate the mansion's unseen hazards. As they progressed, the air grew heavier, the faint hum of machinery vibrating through the walls. Brian shifted his duffel bag, the clink of tools echoing softly. "This place is starting to feel off," he grumbled, his voice a low rumble. "Let's hit the safe and get out." "I don't like lingering." Michael shot him a stern look. "Focus, Brian. We don't rush until the job's done." But even Michael couldn't ignore the growing unease. The mansion, with its high ceilings and shadowy corners, seemed to pulse with a life of its own, as if aware of their presence. From a hidden control room, Senator Kennedy watched through a network of cameras, his calm demeanor masking the satisfaction of seeing his trap unfold. His security system, a masterpiece of technology, was designed not just to protect, but to outmaneuver, and the crew was walking straight into its first snare. The group reached a wide living area, its grandeur undeniable, with vaulted ceilings and a massive crystal chandelier casting prismatic light across the room. Glass cabinets lined the walls, displaying artifacts that glittered with promised golden statuettes, jeweled trinkets, and ornate vases. Brian's eyes widened, his impatience giving way to greed. "Look at this hall," he said, stepping toward a cabinet. But before he could touch it, a sharp click sounded, and a panel in the floor beneath him shifted slightly. "What the—" he gasped, jumping back as a low hum intensified. Ethan's device beeped urgently, his face paling. "Pressure sensor," he said, his fingers flying over the screen. "I missed it. The floor's rigged." The realization hit them hard. The mansion was booby-trapped, and they had triggered its first defense. Michael's jaw tightened, his mind racing to adjust the plan. Ethan, disable it. Now. Ethan nodded, his hands trembling slightly as he worked to override the sensor. The hum grew louder, a warning that the system was recalibrating. Lisa moved to Brian's side, her eyes scanning the room. "We need to split up," she suggested. "I'll take Brian to the lower level where the vault might be. You and Ethan hit the second floor." Michael hesitated, the idea of dividing the team conflicting with his instinct to stay together, but the pressure sensor's activation left little choice. "Fine," he said. "But stay in contact. If anything goes wrong, we regroup." The crew nodded, their unity strained but intact. Lisa and Brian descended a narrow staircase leading to the lower level, the air growing colder with each step. The walls were lined with ancient tapestries, their colors muted in the dim light. Brian's crowbar tapped against the stone, the sound reverberating unnaturally. "This feels like a dungeon," he muttered, his unease mounting. Lisa shushed him, her ears attuned to the faint hum that followed them. "Keep quiet," she said. "We're not alone down here." Her instincts screamed that the mansion was watching, its defenses shifting to meet their moves. Meanwhile, Michael and Ethan climbed the grand staircase to the second floor, the polished banisters gleaming under the soft light. The upper hallway was darker, the air thicker, as if the mansion itself were tightening its grip. Ethan's device buzzed again, a red light flashing on the screen. "The cameras are back online," he said, his voice tight. "Someone's looping them manually." Michael's hand drifted to his gun, though he knew it wouldn't help against a technological foe. "Keep trying," he ordered. "We need eyes on the study." The hallway stretched ahead, its doors closed and ominous. As they approached the study, a soft chime echoed, identical to the one downstairs. Michael froze, his instincts flaring. "That's no coincidence," he said. Ethan nodded, his face grim. "It's a signal. The system's responding to us." The realization dawned. They were being herded, their every step manipulated by an unseen hand. Back on the lower level, Lisa and Brian reached a heavy oak door, its surface carved with intricate patterns. "This has to be it," Lisa said, pulling out her lockpicks. She worked quickly, the faint click of the mechanism a hopeful sound. But as the door creaked open, a loud clang reverberated through the hall, and the door slammed shut behind them. "What the hell?" Brian roared, spinning around. The room was a small chamber, its walls bare, except for a single camera in the corner. Lisa's heart sank as she realized they were trapped. "It's a cage," she said, her voice steady despite the panic rising in her chest. The camera's red light blinked, a silent confirmation that their movements were being monitored. Upstairs, Michael and Ethan reached the study, its door slightly ajar. Inside, a massive oak desk dominated the room, flanked by shelves of leather-bound books. But it was the sleek black monitor on the wall that caught their attention, its screen glowing with an eerie light. As they stepped closer, the monitor flickered to life, displaying a live feed of the mansion's interior, the living room, the staircase, the lower chamber where Lisa and Brian were now trapped. Michael's blood ran cold as the words, "Welcome," flashed across the screen in bold red letters. "We're in deep," he muttered, his hand tightening on his gun. Ethan's device beeped wildly, its readings scrambled. "The system's locked us out," he said. "Whoever's doing this is one step ahead." The mansion's hum intensified, vibrating through the floors and walls, a relentless reminder of their predicament. Senator Kennedy, from his hidden vantage point, observed with a quiet satisfaction. His security system, a blend of cutting-edge technology and strategic foresight, was proving its worth. The pressure sensors, the motion-triggered doors, the camera loops, all were part of a design to confound and contain. The crew had underestimated the man behind the mansion, and now they were paying the price. The first trap had been sprung, and the game was far from over. Michael's mind raced, searching for a way out, but the walls seemed to close in the mansion's intelligence, outmatching their every move. The night was young, and the stakes had just risen. The air inside Senator John Neely Kennedy's residence thickened with an oppressive weight, as Michael and his crew found themselves ensnared in a web of uncertainty. The mansion, once a symbol of opulence, had transformed into a labyrinthine trap, its walls pulsing with a low, incessant hum that seemed to track their every move. The second-floor hallway where Michael and Ethan stood was darker than the rest, the shadows stretching long and jagged across the polished hardwood. The study door, slightly ajar, beckoned them forward, but the black monitor's ominous welcome message lingered in Michael's mind, a chilling reminder that they were no longer in control. Downstairs, Lisa and Brian were locked in a chamber, the heavy oak door sealing their fate, while the blinking camera watched their every twitch. The crew's earlier unity was fracturing, each member grappling with the realization that the mansion was alive with intent, orchestrated by a mind far superior to their own. Michael's hand rested on his gun, though he knew it offered little defense against the technological maze they'd stumbled into. "Ethan, we need to get that monitor offline," he said, his voice tight with urgency. Ethan nodded, his fingers trembling, as he manipulated his device, the screen flashing with error messages. "It's no use," he admitted, his tone laced with frustration. "The system's rewriting itself faster than I can counter. It's like it's learning from us." The words sent a shiver down Michael's spine. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the floorboards, and the lights overhead flickered, casting erratic shadows that danced like specters. From his hidden control room, Senator Kennedy observed with a steady gaze, his fingers poised over a console that displayed live feeds of the intruders. His security system, a testament to his intellect, was adapting, turning the mansion into a dynamic puzzle designed to outwit and exhaust. Downstairs, Lisa pressed her ear against the chamber's door, the faint hum seeping through the wood. "Brian, we need to find a way out," she said, her voice calm but firm. Brian, his massive frame tense, slammed his crowbar against the door, the clang reverberating uselessly. "This thing won't budge," he growled, his frustration boiling over. The room was barren, its stone walls cold to the touch, and the camera's red light pulsed like a heartbeat. Lisa's sharp eyes scanned for weaknesses, spotting a small vent high on the wall. "Up there," she pointed. "If we can reach it, we might get out." Brian hoisted her up, his muscles straining, but the vent was sealed tight, a mocking reminder of their captivity. The hum intensified, and a soft click sounded as a panel slid open, revealing a narrow passage. A trap or an escape? Lisa wondered aloud, her instincts warring with her caution. Upstairs, Michael and Ethan edged into the study, the air growing colder as they approached the monitor. The room was a shrine of elegance, mahogany shelves lined with leather-bound books, a massive desk carved with intricate details, and a faint scent of aged paper. But the monitor dominated its screen, now cycling through feeds of the mansion's interior, zooming in on Lisa and Brian's predicament. "They're trapped," Ethan said, his voice breaking. Michael's jaw clenched, his mind racing for a solution. As he stepped closer, the screen flickered, and the words, "I see you," appeared in bold red letters. The camera above the monitor tilted its lens, focusing on them, and a low laugh echoed through hidden speakers. Michael's blood ran cold. Someone was toying with them, and the mansion was the instrument. The hum shifted, becoming a rhythmic pulse that seemed to guide their movements. Michael noticed the floor tiles shifting slightly, forming a subtle path toward a side door. "This way," he said, motioning to Ethan. They followed the path, the tiles clicking softly underfoot, but as they reached the door, it slammed shut, locking with a metallic thud. Ethan cursed his device, beeping wildly. "It's a decoy," he said. "The system's leading us in circles." The realization hit hard. They were being manipulated each step, a calculated move in someone else's game. Senator Kennedy, with his keen foresight, had engineered the mansion to disorient using motion sensors and automated doors to herd the intruders like cattle. The laughter faded, replaced by the hum's relentless drone, a constant reminder of their vulnerability. Downstairs, Lisa and Brian hesitated at the passage's entrance, the narrow tunnel stretching into darkness. "We don't have a choice," Lisa said, stepping forward. Brian followed his broad shoulders, scraping the walls, the crowbar clutched tightly. The passage twisted and turned, the hum growing louder, until they emerged into a larger room filled with filing cabinets and maps. "This looks like an office," Brian said, his voice tinged with hope. But, as they approached a cabinet, the floor tilted, sending papers scattering. The room was a decoy designed to waste their time, and the camera in the corner blinked mockingly. Lisa's frustration mounted, but she kept her composure. "We're being played," she said. "We need to find the others." Upstairs, Michael and Ethan faced a new challenge as the study's walls seemed to close in the hum, vibrating through their bones. A panel slid open, revealing a spiral staircase descending into shadow. "Down there?" Ethan asked, his voice uncertain. Michael nodded, his instincts pushing him forward despite the danger. The staircase creaked under their weight, the air growing musty, until they reached a basement lined with steel doors. The hum was deafening here, and the lights flickered wildly. One door stood ajar, and inside a control panel glowed its screens, showing the mansion's layout. "This could be the hub," Michael said, stepping closer. But as he touched the panel, an alarm blared, and the door slammed shut, trapping them inside. The mansion's intelligence was relentless, its design a reflection of Senator Kennedy's strategic mind. Each room, each trap was a test, pushing the crew to their limits. Lisa and Brian, back in the decoy office, heard the alarm and exchanged a glance. "That's Michael," Lisa said, her heart racing. They retraced their steps, the passage narrowing until they were forced to crawl. The hum guided them, a cruel compass leading them toward the basement. Meanwhile, Michael and Ethan pounded on the steel door, the alarm's wail mixing with the hum. Ethan's device was useless, its signals jammed. "We're stuck," he said, his voice hollow. The basement's screens flickered, displaying Lisa and Brian's approach. The camera zoomed in, and the words, "Closer," flashed on the monitor. Michael's anger flared, but a plan formed. "When they get here, we'll use Brian's strength to break out," he said. The weight was agonizing, the hum a constant torment, until the passage door creaked open. Lisa and Brian stumbled in their faces, etched with relief and exhaustion. Brian swung his crowbar at the steel door, the impact reverberating, but it held firm. Again Michael urged. The second blow cracked the frame, and with a final heave the door gave way. They emerged into the basement's main area, the hum receding slightly. The screens showed the mansion's every corner, a testament to Kennedy's surveillance. The crew was battered, but together their resolve tested. Senator Kennedy watched, his satisfaction tempered by curiosity. How far would they push before breaking? The maze had claimed its toll, but the game was still in play. Each move a step toward an inevitable reckoning. The basement of Senator John Neely Kennedy's residence felt like the heart of a beast, its steel walls closing in as Michael, Lisa, Ethan, and Brian stood battered and breathless. The air was thick with the fading hum of machinery, the last echoes of the mansion's relentless defenses reverberating through the concrete. The crew had fought their way out of the steel chamber, Brian's crowbar leaving a dented scar on the door, but the victory was hollow. The screens lining the walls flickered with live feeds of the mansion's every corner, hallways, staircases, and the trapped chamber they'd escaped, each image a stark reminder of their vulnerability. The alarm had silenced, but the tension hung heavy, a noose tightening around their hopes. Michael's hand still gripped his gun, though it felt useless against the invisible force that had outmaneuvered them. They were together again, but the cost was clear. Their perfect plan had crumbled, and the mansion had won. Ethan slumped against the wall, his device dangling limply in his hands. "It's over," he muttered, his voice cracked with exhaustion. "The systems locked us down completely. Every exit, every signal, it's all controlled." His fingers hovered over the screen, but the endless stream of errors mocked his efforts. Lisa wiped sweat from her brow, her sharp eyes scanning the basement for any sign of escape. "We need to think," she said, her tone steady, despite the despair creeping in. "There has to be a way out." Brian, his broad shoulders heaving, slammed his fist against a steel panel, the dull thud echoing. "I'm not dying in this damn place," he growled, his frustration boiling over. But even his strength seemed futile against the mansion's iron grip. Michael's mind raced, piecing together the night's events, the chimes, the traps, the cameras, all leading to this moment of reckoning. As if on cue, the largest screen at the far end of the basement flared to life, its bright light cutting through the dimness. The crew turned their hearts pounding as the image resolved into the face of Senator John Neely Kennedy himself. His expression was calm, almost serene, his eyes sharp with a quiet authority. "Gentlemen, lady," he began, his voice smooth, but carrying an edge of steel, "you've put on quite a show. But this is my home, and I've known of your plans since you first set foot on my property." The revelation hit like a punch. Michael's jaw tightened, his mind reeling. Kennedy had anticipated them, his security system, a reflection of a mind far more calculating than they'd imagined. "I designed this place to protect what's mine," Kennedy continued, "and to teach those who think they can take it a lesson. You're not the first, and you won't be the last." The screens shifted, replaying footage of their every move. The gate breach, the pressure sensor trigger, the chamber trap, each moment a testament to Kennedy's foresight. Lisa's face hardened, her regret mingling with admiration for the man's ingenuity. "You outsmarted us," she said, her voice low. Kennedy nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "I had to. This isn't just about wealth, it's about principle. You chose a path of greed, and now you face the consequences." The words stung, but they carried a truth Michael couldn't deny. They had underestimated Kennedy, assuming his absence left the mansion defenseless. Instead, he had turned it into a fortress, a lesson wrapped in steel and code. A distant siren wailed, growing louder as the sound of boots echoed through the mansion. The crew exchanged panicked glances, their escape routes cut off. "The police?" Ethan whispered, his face paling. Kennedy's image nodded. "I've alerted them. You'll be taken into custody, but I'll offer a word of advice before you go. Consider this a chance to rethink your choices. There's a better way to live than stealing from others." The screen went black, leaving the crew in silence, the weight of their failure settling like a shroud. Michael's shoulders slumped, the gun slipping from his hand to clatter on the floor. He had led them into this, his confidence blinding him to the reality of Kennedy's preparedness. The basement door burst open, and uniformed officers stormed in, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. "Hands up, one," barked his voice, authoritative. The crew complied, their wrists quickly bound with handcuffs, the cold metal a stark contrast to the heat of their struggle. As they were led out, the mansion's grandeur mocked their defeat, its chandeliers, its artwork all untouchable now. Brian's head hung low, his earlier defiance replaced by a bitter resignation. "We were fools," he muttered, his voice raw. Ethan nodded, his eyes fixed on the floor. "I thought we had it figured out, but we didn't stand a chance." Lisa remained silent, her mind replaying the night's mistakes, her usual composure shaken. Outside, the night air hit them like a slap, the police car's lights flashing red and blue against the mansion's walls. Michael glanced back, catching a final glimpse of the estate, its windows dark and unyielding. The regret was a heavy weight, a realization that their greed had led them here. "I should have known," he said softly, more to himself than the others. "Kennedy's not just smart. He's a step ahead of everyone." The officers ushered them into the back of a patrol car, the doors slamming shut with a finality that echoed in their minds. Inside, the space was cramped, the silence broken only by the hum of the engine as they were driven away. As the mansion receded into the distance, the crew faced the consequences of their actions. Ethan stared out the window, his thoughts a jumble of lost opportunities. "We were so sure," he said, his voice hollow. "But now it's all gone." Brian's fist clenched, his anger simmering. "We thought we were the smart ones, but we were just pawns. Stupid pawns." Lisa's gaze remained fixed ahead, her mind processing the night's lessons. She had sensed the danger early, but her loyalty to the crew had overridden her instincts. Now she saw the cost of that choice. Michael, in the front of the car, felt the weight of leadership most acutely. He had driven them forward, his ambition blinding him to the signs. Kennedy's words echoed in his mind, a chance to rethink their choices. For the first time, he considered a different path, one where hard work and honesty might offer a future less fraught with danger. The ride to the station was long, the silence a mirror to their internal struggles. Each mile deepened their regret, a bitter pill they would carry for years. Senator Kennedy shut down his control room, reflecting on the intruder's regret. He hoped the lesson of integrity and preparation would stay with them. Meanwhile, Michael and his crew sat in the station, humiliated but aware their greed had led to downfall. For Michael, the failure weighed heavily, sparking thoughts of change. Their failed heist would fade, but the lesson endured. Greed destroys, while discipline and honesty preserve. For Kennedy, it was more than a victory. It was a chance to teach values that might save them from future ruin.